Hey guys, welcome back to Real Housewives Recaps. Today we're recapping Dexter. We're going to be talking the new season, the old episodes. I'm actually reading the book, so I'm going to talk about the books a little bit. And I'm here with my favorite co-podcaster, my husband Jay. Now, I do have to warn you guys, we have pretty bad colds, so that's why we sound the way we do. But we're going to talk about it anyway because we're obsessed and we're here. Please check out Jay's channel. It's Dr. Bad Vibes, all one word. He does all kinds of cool video game stuff, so give that a like, give him a subscribe, check it out. He's a lot of fun. He even does those crazy hot chip challenges that I could never do. So let's get into Dexter. Now, there's a reason why Dexter means so much to us, and it's kind of funny because you wouldn't guess on a show like this, this is where we'd be at. But when Jay and I first started dating and we were falling in love, it was over Dexter. I just remember hours and hours of binge watching it with him. And it was just a good show to snuggle up to. And we have a lot of good memories about Dexter, which makes us sound like serial killers, but it just makes me laugh. Okay, and I am going to let him talk, I promise. But the last thing I do want to point out is that YouTube is very weird about certain words being used. They can't tell the difference when we're talking about a show versus real life. So you might hear us talk about stumbling upon cherry cobbler everywhere. You know what I'm talking about, right? Like, he's a cherry cobbler expert. So what I'm trying to say is we're going to use incorrect words. Like, we're going to say he's butchery. That's why some of our wording's going to sound a little weird. It's just our workaround. You just have to, when you make YouTube videos, you kind of have to figure out what words they're not wanting you to use. So if you hear us say something like, look at all that cherry cobbler on the ground and he's very butchery, then you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, so obviously Dexter means a lot to us personally, but it's a good show on its own. I'd actually watched, I think the first 4 seasons were current. Prior to that, I'd watched those on Netflix when I guess season 4 had just ended. And so I guess, spoiler alert, if you haven't watched the original series, you may want to go back and watch that before this. It's doable if you just read the synopses, but I'd recommend watching it at least through season 4. So yeah, I guess at the end, I wouldn't recommend skipping over it completely. I would definitely watch the old series if you haven't. It's very good. I would probably consider that. It was my favorite show of all time, but the later seasons kind of dragged that down a little. So it's still good, but I probably wouldn't go past season 5. The last season kind of just goes off the rails, and it really doesn't reference much beyond season 4 so far, this new series, but the plot point of his sister being gone and him having to relocate, that was the end of the original series. That's the only later plot point that carries forward.
So I just started reading the first book in the series. It's Darkly Dreaming Dexter. It's by Jeff Lindsay. I never say that right, Lindsay. And it's fantastic. I do highly recommend that. It's just kind of taking me right back to the original series. You just kind of get an inside look at his head and what's going on, what he's thinking, and why he does what he does and how methodical he is with everything. Just the things that I love about Dexter. And honestly, that is why I'm loving this new season, is it brought me right back there. It brought me back to loving Dexter and rooting for him. I know he's dark, but I love him and I find it fantastic, and I really am loving this I don't know if you want to call it reboot, new season, whatever it is. I like to pretend like the last 2 seasons didn't happen and jump right into this reboot.
So this series picks up 10 years after the previous season 8, I believe. And it kind of goes back to the original formula where he's essentially Batman. He's a detective. He goes after the bad guys that the justice system can't touch. But unlike Batman, he does what Batman will not do. And also in this season, he doesn't really have the flashbacks with his dad. I mean, maybe the actor wasn't available. I don't know. But the actor that played his sister, she's in it. Spoiler alert, she died at the end of the last season. But she lives on in his head, basically yelling at him and taunting him, sort of giving him advice.
So this is where I want your comments below. Let me know your thoughts, because I have strong opinions, and every time she's on the screen, I'm just like, why? I didn't mind her on the original series. I don't understand the placement in this one. I assume it's because she was, in all the original episodes, so they wanted to bring her back in some capacity, but the way they brought her back, I'm not digging it. I think it's supposed to be our voice or the voice of the audience, but no, I could have done without Debra. What are your thoughts? Leave me a comment below.
So I know this channel likes to talk about the tea, which I don't know much about, but one of the few things I do know is from the original series, Michael C. Hall, the Dexter actor, and Jennifer Carpenter, I believe that's the sister, they were married for a little bit in real life. I don't remember which season, and he was diagnosed with leukemia, I think, and so she stuck it out with him, and then once he was in remission, he divorced her. So I don't know how awkward this pairing is. I mean, I guess they still work together for a while after that, but I would find that a little bit awkward, but that's just me.
Well, I'll keep that in mind, but when I decide to dump you, I'll probably still keep you around for my podcast.
So anyways, I guess the super condensed version of Dexter is he's a secret vigilante that takes the bad guys out. And throughout the first few seasons, he meets a girl, they get married, they have a kid. One of the villains, played by John Lithgow, which that's season 4. If you haven't seen it, go watch it. That's where the bulk of this ties into, because the wife is gone, the son ends up in foster care, and then by the end of the series, Dexter disappears, fakes his own demise. And this picks up 10 years later, so he's in a fictional rural town in New York, and then the son, who's now a teenager, shows up looking for him.
And this is where I got to give that kid credit, because he is such a good actor. That's such a complex role to play. He's playing very similar to what Dexter's gone through. He calls it his dark passenger. He deals with the same struggles that Dexter has, where, you know, taking people out and making sure he's honing his skills and following a code, if you know what I mean, as crazy as that sounds. But I really enjoy that actor playing the role. I think he's doing a great job, and that's a hard sell, right? Especially if you're just a kid. He's a kid, and he's doing such a good job in that role.
So this reboot picks up in the middle of nowhere town in New York. Dexter's working in a sporting goods shop, no longer on the police force, although he is dating the chief of police. And as we're introduced to these new characters, it's I guess vacation time in the winter or something, and there's a crappy kid that's wanting to buy a hunting rifle. He can't pass his background check, and he's increasingly looking like a bad person, and Dexter's taking notice of that, and the kid's being really crappy and pushy.
So he alludes to not having satisfied his dark passenger in a long time. So I'm led to believe, and I'm not sure if this is the case, but it sounds like he hasn't taken out anybody since he started his new life, and he's been here for like 10 years. So it's an interesting dynamic to see this jackass kid, and then we find out some dark things about the kid. But yeah, just the fact that Dexter hasn't satisfied his dark passenger in a long time.
Yeah, and the kid just increasingly looks worse and worse, and finally, I believe we learned the reason that the background check didn't go through is that it was marked as an accident, but we later find out that I believe it was like a DUI situation. He rammed a powerboat into another boat and took out 5 people and essentially got away with it. So, I mean, that kind of fits the Dexter formula of like, hey, I'm coming for you. And, you know, the taunting of Dexter and just the general crappiness of the kid. He pulls some strings with the owner to pretty much force Dexter to sell him the hand deliver it to him, and he's not happy about it at all. And jumping back a little bit just to set this stage, we do learn that Dexter has a morning ritual. He runs out to a protected land. There's like some kind of albino deer that he likes to look at and just kind of meditate on. So after he does this deal with the kid, he goes back to his ritual. He's checking out the deer. All of a sudden, cherry cobbler blows all over him. The kid was hunting that deer, and that alone, you're not supposed to do. It was a protected species on a protected land. So he almost hit Dexter in the same swoop, too. So he was extremely not pleased about the whole thing, and then he was kind of being a jerk about it. So Dexter finally snaps and puts him to bed.
Then we go over to episode 2. This is where he's trying to figure out where to put this person who's now asleep. and we are kind of introduced to Kurt. Now, Kurt becomes a big plot point of this whole series.
Kurt is the father of the missing kid, Matt. But Kurt is also played by Clancy Brown, who I'm very familiar with. But if you're not familiar with him, he is probably best known as Mr. Krabs from SpongeBob. He's also had some other parts, mostly small. He was the Mad Max-looking villain in the first Highlander movie, and I think he was the dad in Pet Sematary 2 that probably not many people saw. Also, he did the voice of Lex Luthor for a long time in the DC Comics animated show.
So he shows up, and he's basically like the most powerful man in town, and all of a sudden Dexter's like, oh.
So from that point, they use Dexter's house as like the home base of the search. Dad is adamant on finding his son, and Dexter, it's been 10 years, so he's a little sloppy. He's having to go back and kind of cover up all of his mistakes. And along that line, we get another side story of a homeless girl, and she ends up in a hotel room, and it gets creepier and creepier, and then we find out she's being watched with a camera.
So this part, honestly, I have to kind of glaze over because, again, I have to be careful what we talk about here. But in a nutshell, it involves very gruesome scenes of Kurt treating the captives like prey. And he has to track them, and you can imagine what happens next.
The other plot advancement is Dexter's son Harrison shows up, and he's looking for answers. He's not really sure Dexter's Dexter, but then they end up going back and forth, and then he finally admits, and then kind of gives him sort of the story of what happened, but he's protecting, in his mind, he's protecting his son from the truth. Unfortunately, by dancing over those facts, it kind of just leaves the story that he's a deadbeat dad. He left Harrison in care of his aunt, I believe. I can't remember the exact relation, cousin, something. Anyway, she unfortunately passed away to cancer, and that's what left Harrison in foster care. I believe he was in South America. And he bounced around. He was essentially homeless, and he worked his way up through to New York. I forget what the lead was, but he assumed Dexter was there, and that's what led him to Dexter.
So, meanwhile, the search for Matt continues. Dexter was doing a good job of leading them out of town, making it look like Matt fled. But then more evidence came in, so they started expanding the search area. They were talking about, I believe it was these caverns they were going to search in, and all of a sudden Kurt's like, nope, let's stop it here. He called me. We're all good.
Yeah, so that abruptly ends the search. Everybody's kind of like, that's weird. I wonder why that happened. And even Dexter's like, yeah, there's no way he called him, because that's not how phones work. So that kind of pushes the light to the side. We focus more on Harrison just trying to be a kid. He kind of befriends the police chief's daughter. He hooks up with a clique in high school, makes a few friends, starts to fit in. You can tell there's some awkwardness and some weirdness. And then he kind of befriends or protects a kid that's being bullied, and finds like a sketchbook of a lot of very bad things that the kid wants to do. And from there, Harrison kind of ends up looking like a hero, because he stops a seemingly bad plan that this kid was going to go forward with. And, he's kind of a hero, man of the hour for a little bit. But Dexter's being kind of weird about it. And his history as a crime scene analyst kind of leads him back to where everything went down. And to him, nothing makes sense. His expertise as a strawberry jam splatter analyst leads him to recreate what happened, and he kind of puts together that Harrison may not totally be telling the truth.
I want to be a strawberry jam analyst. That sounds delicious.
So that kind of starts the path of, or our view of Harrison's struggle with his dark passenger. We start seeing glimpses of that, and it flashes things like there's a podcast all about Dexter's previous life and what John Lithgow's character did, and obviously that was Harrison's mom that was involved in that. So we learned that he's listened to everything. He knows all the details, just not, how close all those details are.
And you guys, this is where things got really good. This is where I really clicked into this show. I thought the first episodes were good, but some of them drug a little bit. But you guys, as soon as we figure out that Kurt is the one that is the bad guy that's been tracking people, we'll say, and had that creepy room we talked about, you guys, it got so good. It has been on fire ever since. Kurt is fantastic. I can't wait for Dexter to get a hold of him.
So at this point, Dexter's girlfriend, Angela, the chief of police, she's on her own lead investigating what's going on with the son, Matt, and nothing's making sense. And as she's investigating, we get a nice little cameo from Detective Batista from the original series. They have a little chit-chat back and forth, and it's like dancing around Dexter and his new identity, and neither of them realize that she doesn't realize that he's Dexter, and he doesn't realize that Dexter's still alive. So that's a little ha-ha for the viewers there.
Meanwhile, while that's going on, Dexter decides to take out some of the people that supplied party favors to the high school kids. Luckily, the chief of police's daughter saved Harrison, and Dexter decided to seek out who made that stuff happen.
And lots more things are going on almost simultaneously. We learn that Kurt has found a new victim at his diner that he owns. He takes her to the woods, and that does not go the way he intends. He has to think on his feet and creates a mess that he has to clean up.
You get to see how truly disgusting and twisted he is, and it really makes you root for Dexter even more, just to take him out Dexter style.
And from there, Dexter realizes who Kurt is and what he's up to. And at the same time, the chief of police and a podcaster who's been investigating some of the things going on, they're working together. And based on the conversation with Detective Batista, and I believe Harrison may have said something. I can't remember the entire reveal. But anyways, Dexter's girlfriend, Angela, the chief of police, she realizes that Dexter is Dexter, not Jim Lindsay, which I believe may be a wink to the actual author of the original book, Jeff Lindsay. And so that kind of strains the relationship. They essentially break up, and Angela continues on her search. She'd lost a friend in high school that she always suspected was foul play, and she realized that Kurt got really weird once they got near those caverns, so she decided to go inspect the caverns herself, and did end up finding something, and that is so bad that she ended up calling up Dexter for his crime scene investigation skills, which it did confirm that was her friend from high school that was hidden in the cave. So from that, they were able to get some DNA evidence under the fingernails, and it matched Kurt, seemingly, and they arrested him, brought him in, and then he managed to get out on a technicality saying that his dad did it.
And this is one of my favorite moments of the series so far, when Dexter confronts him while he's in the jail cell. They have such a good moment where there's a lot of subtext, and they're saying, I know what you did. And again, he's saying back, well, I know what you did.
And working backwards a little bit, along with that reveal, leading up to it, Kurt has been kind of acting like a mentor, father figure to Harrison, and kind of crapping on Dexter the whole time, which was, weird enough on its own. But then through that reveal, we're like, oh, he's going after Dexter's son. And I believe Dexter pieces that together as well.
So it's like the ultimate cat and mouse game. Dexter and it's Kurt, and they're going back and forth. Meanwhile, Kurt's got Dexter's son Harrison working for him, and Harrison and Dexter have been bickering, so Harrison's not listening to Dexter, and honestly, Dexter's not doing a great job of explaining it all to Harrison. He tries to warn him about Kurt, but it kind of falls on deaf ears, so things are getting way more dangerous. That's where I start screaming at the TV and say, Dexter, you have to tell him to stay away, but Harrison's stubborn. He's not listening. You guys, it is intense.
So at the diner, as Kurt's being released, Dexter and Harrison are kind of arguing, and then as that ends, this random guy just pops up and knocks Dexter out, and he wakes up in the back of his truck and basically alludes to the plan that they're going to bring Dexter and Harrison to Kurt's cabin in the woods, and he's going to enact whatever revenge he has planned on them.
But we're only in episode 8. We got 10 to go, so we know it's not going down like that, right? Dexter gets the better of the bad guy and flies through a window like it's nothing. And it's a very interesting scene of a big chase of Dexter through the snow, bad guy chasing him. And poor Dexter has been hit. I got to be careful of the words I say here, but he's been hit, and He's leaving a trail, and the guy is hunting him, basically, and it's terrifying.
Yeah, the whole hunting scene is pretty intense. The beginning of it, Dexter tries to get loose. He's zip tied together, and he kind of uses those ties to give the hillbilly driver a Glasgow smile. Google that if you don't know what that is. And most of the episodes spent chasing each other through the woods, and basically Dexter tricks him, takes him out, and gets to his truck, and he gets there in the nick of time. He's trying to warn Harrison the whole way, but he's not listening to him. He puts his phone in airplane mode for whatever reason. I don't know why he couldn't just text, "Hey, serial killer, leave." You know. And also, just a side note, the whole time it's like most of the episode, Kurt's taking Harrison out on like a weird date the whole episode. Like, I'm not sure how old Harrison's supposed to be, but I mean, if I were like 14 or 15, I would immediately think this man is trying to fuck me. Like, why would I be hanging out with him? But he's with him. I mean, I guess he just wants a relationship that badly. And Dexter shows up in the nick of time and stops Kurt before he does his normal shenanigans, and that's where we're at right now currently.
Hear that, everybody? You got to subscribe to Dave's channel so that way he'll think you're trying to fuck him. No, but really, we were saying the same thing through the episode. Like, no grown-up should be talking to a kid like this. This is creepy, and I know he's creepy anyway, but it was one cringe moment after another. It was horrible to watch, and he should have run when he went to get the firewood. I was screaming at the TV.
Yes, that's where we're at right now. Season 8 is where we're at currently. Really good so far. I kind of dropped off Dexter in season 7. It just got weird, but still sounds a lot better than that Sex and the City garbage you've been watching. I'm not familiar with any of that, but just the little bit I've seen tangentially, I'm like, wow, this sounds god-awful.
Yep, and to put a neat bow on that, that awful train wreck and just like that. So remember in the original series of Sex and the City, Richard is the same actor who plays Dexter's dad in the original series. I do wish they had brought him back in flashbacks and maybe not so much Debra. Debra annoys me. Yeah, so that's it for where we're at. That wraps us through episode 8. I believe there's 10 episodes, and I cannot wait for the last 2. Let me know your thoughts below if you're still with us. If you've enjoyed our recap, let us know. Let me know if there's another show you want us to talk about. Let me know your thoughts on the season. I really want to know. I am loving this reboot. I'm super into it. It sounds like a lot of you guys are too. Want to hear all about it. And I think that's it for us. Thank you guys so much for watching. We really appreciate it. We'll have better voices next time when we kick this cold. I blame our kid for that. But thanks again for watching. Please check out Jay's channel, Dr. Bad Vibes. And we'll be talking to you guys again soon. Take care. Bye-bye.